Huh?
Oh, we're doing the pledge.
Hey, well, I have to wait till I got the high sign.
I lost my signal up here. Any idea?
If everybody would please stand for the
you-
pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Beth, roll call, please.
Mr. Berman,
Still here.
Mr. Manfredi,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Here.
Mrs. Stone,
Here.
Mr. Wadsworth.
Here.
Okay. I need a first and a second for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Linda? Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Berman,
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Stone,
Yes.
and Mr. Wadsworth.
Yes.
I need a first and a second to approve the minutes. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Jody? Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Manfredi,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth,
Yes.
Mr. Berman.
Yes.
Okay, John, community partnership.
All right, I would like to invite Jackie Preston to come up to the stage, please. I want to say a few words about their family's partnership with the district and have a gift bag to give to Jackie.
Jackie, thanks for your patience.
Jackie, you have a bag that was put together by our Badger Lab students. It has T-shirts for you and for Bill and for Pat, and some other kind of Berkshire swag that came out of our student store. And for those of you who missed it earlier, the Prestons made a huge donation to the district, which allowed us to purchase that facility, which will become the future workforce development campus, and will give students hands-on experience in auto collision repair, in auto and diesel, and then will allow them to go into other tech options. So we couldn't have done any of that without them. They're a great friend of the district, so generous, and they're helping us with our mission of helping our kids reach the American dream. Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie.
Okay. John, student and staff presentation.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mr. Franks to introduce the high school agricultural education group.
Mr. Manfredi, Board of Education, thank you for having us here tonight. Coming down behind me right now, if they're not yet coming down, is our agricultural education teacher, Mr. Ard, as well as my 3-star pupils that are from his classroom as well. I want to thank the Board of Education for support of this program. We are in the 3rd semester of it, so this is year number 1 of our agribusiness and production systems pathway. Mr. Ard is our teacher. We have a little presentation behind you. Mr. Ard will be giving a little bit of information about where the program is today, but most importantly, what it's going to look like in the future. I want to note my 3 students back here, Talia, Campbell, and Addison. 2 of these students were meeting with me as early as what, 1st semester last year, girls? Talking about bringing a agricultural education program to Berkshire High School. They connected us with some community resources as well as Dr. Stoddard, and here we are today with a great program that you're going to learn a little bit more about right now. So at this point, thank you once again. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Ard.
Mr. Ard, just tell me when to click.
All right, sounds great. Hey, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Frank. All right, you can go ahead and click, Mr. Stoddard, there. So I'm Mike Ard, the teacher of the agricultural education classes right now. We are starting off this year with our foundation courses, which are the agriculture, food, and natural resources course. Those are the building block courses to the whole pathway of the program that we're going to be developing over the coming years as we add the additional courses. But as you can see on this list up front, it covers a pretty wide range of content areas within the disciplines and offers just a kind of a glimpse of the different opportunities that are out there. And so as our students further along, they'll have, the pathway of our program that will touch on the varieties. And we've been covering these to a large extent in different ways as we've been trying to kind of map things out and plan for the future. Currently, for example, we've been spending a lot of time studying food science, which is a great opportunity for us to connect with our local resources, Great Lakes Cheese, the cornerstone partner of ours we're going to continue to collaborate with. Part of the programming of the course includes things like supported agricultural experiences. Students, as they get further down the pathway and have opportunities to engage on some more personalized, sort of individualized experiences, they're going to have opportunities that they've learned through their time in the AFNR course, for example, to be able to really get into something that connects with their own passion. These ladies here, for example, they're a little bit further along in their high school career, and they've got some big stuff that they do in their personal time as far as their connections to agriculture, that in the future, kids who are coming up will be able to really maximize that through what we're putting together in the classroom too, not just have to be trying to go on shows and this and that to piece it together without it being able to really credit towards what they're doing in the classroom every day too. And so whether we're talking about opportunities with Great Lakes Cheese or working in their own dairy barns or whatever it might be, there's going to be lots of great opportunities. You can go to that next slide, Mr. Stoddard. So there's some comments here about what we've been doing so far. A lot of our students have great agricultural backgrounds. Many of them do not. And this course does not discriminate. And so we do a lot of work to front load as far as making sure everybody understands what is agriculture, what are all the many, many, many different opportunities underneath that umbrella. There are countless opportunities. That's something that these guys have heard me talk about time and again, trying to open up the eyes to people who are in our community to know that we have great opportunities right here. And it doesn't have to look one way or another. And so whether that becomes a veterinary technician or a forestry expert or absolutely. We can trace everything back to agriculture in one way or another. And we're trying to build this program and so that it can maximize what we can offer here. And we just listened to that great debate. We all want to try to make the most of our community. And I think this is what we're trying to do here. So the second point, I think, speaks to that really well. One thing that we talked about was parliamentary procedure and how to be able to work together to solve problems and bring ideas together, how you can promote what you want to accomplish. One of the things that we really focused on heavily during the first semester was a project that I just called Berkshire Farms, and it was kind of an opportunity to be student-directed and provide really an opportunity to say, hey, what do you see that we can do here? It's brand new. We have this beautiful school. There's a blank canvas. We don't have much right now as far as what's established and what we have to work with. We're talking about funding. That's something that's always going to be a question. And with our program, that's one of those. We do have great people working for us, trying to get grants. And it's a competitive marketplace, not just for homes, but for grants too. And, we're going to keep on beating the drums for that. But I think that work that they did with their Berkshire Farms, both focusing on how to build this program, create an opportunity for themselves and their other classmates down the road, while doing it with this emphasis on how can we do this the right way, I think is really important. One of the things, for example, that we worked on, we're trying to emphasize understanding that agriculture is not just about having fun on a farm, but we're trying to make some money. And so commodities is a big focus early on. We're talking about different ways that you can identify the resources that are available to you and try to maximize your value. You can go to that next slide there. I mentioned the food science unit. I really do think that we've got a great opportunity between Great Lakes Cheese and also I'm a big maple sugar fan. I make syrup. We're going to be involved pretty heavily with Log Cabin and doing some sugaring here. That's something that's going to be a big cornerstone as we go forward, trying to build around. Those two things, I think, combined really give us a nice base to to continue to create what is going to be, I think, kind of a jewel of a program for us down the road. You know, we're in our infancy, but we've done a lot of different things as far as trying to say, hey, how can we connect with stuff that's a different opportunity, a little bit outside of the box? You know, these last couple of pictures you've seen are focused on a couple different activities we've done in the class. I think the one was the aroma thing. And the other, this is obviously like a food packaging thing. I shouldn't say obviously, but this had to do with the food packaging process. They had to determine how they were going to package their peanut butter and jelly sandwich so that it would make it across the country. Threw it against the wall. I dropped it from high heights. I think I stomped on it with books. I don't know. So they did a good job with that. You can go to that next slide. I'm going to pause for a second here because I've talked a lot, and we have some students who I think their voices are a little bit more meaningful, if you ask me. But one of the things that we worked on, and I'm going to transition to you in just a moment. You're okay with that? I mentioned this before, the Berkshire Farms project was, again, trying to give them an opportunity to say, hey, this is what we want to do. This is what we think would be a great experience and something that we could put together on our campus. And so one of those we talked a lot about was, for example, goat. And so we have a resident I'm going to call a resident goat expert, and vision, like in the years to come, what could that look like?
By the
let's
microphone.
handle
We
that.
have to be, we can't hear you without it.
Well, I've been bugging Mr. Franks about this since my 8th grade year, and now I'm a junior. Me and Campbell, we know that we're not going to get the full, like, everything out of the program, but we wanted to start it just so, like, the younger generation coming up has the hands-on experience that we had at home, because with this farm and, like, possibly having goats or animals on the premises here, like, that gives the kids that live in Burton or live where they can't afford to have the animals or the opportunities that me and Campbell and Talia all have with the 4-H or whatnot. We can do that through the FFA or whatnot, and having even like a chicken program where we teach the kids, like, you have to have responsibilities to go out and feed them, to go water them, to go walk the goat, to go do this, that. Those responsibilities have taught all of us to be very responsible with everything that we do every day. Like, we get up before school, we go out and I feed my personal animals, they probably feed theirs, and then we go to school. But not many kids do that, and not many kids understand that you have to get up and those animals are relying on you to feed them, to water them, to make sure they're okay before you go on with your day. And I want to make sure kids, younger kids like my own brother and like his generation, I want to make sure they have those same opportunities that I had with the school, because not many people can afford to have the animals on their own property at home. So that's what we're trying to do with the goats and everything here.
If you want to go to the next slide here. Okay. So, thank you, Ashley. That's great. So, talk a little bit more about this particular slide here, and then I'm going to ask you guys to speak a little bit about your experience and what you think about kind of like what you said. So, where are we headed? A big thing, as I already mentioned, that we're going to be building off of, and this might be something you want to talk a little bit about as far as maybe getting is what I call the science, art, and economics of maple sugaring. Again, that's, I think, an obvious part of our identity, our cornerstone within our community. And that's something we're going to be maximizing. I've been working already with the Chamber of Commerce and trying to lay the foundation for that. And actually, one thing that I think we'd like to do in the future, one of the programs I mentioned, part of the programming is supported agricultural experiences. And we're going to be working with the folks at the log cabin to create an internship with them specifically to be involved and have a real hands-on approach. And so I think that that's going to be something that some people are going to be excited about. And we're actually going on a field trip there coming up pretty soon to start that conversation. Implementation of the Berkshire Farms project, which we've talked about a little bit. Of course, I mentioned the SAEs. and starting to really, and probably next year, develop that whole vision of our FFA chapter. I'm going to the next slide. Actually, before I go on, I'm going to have, maybe you guys can come up and talk a little bit about our trip to Great Lakes Cheese, and then we can transition.
Okay, so we went to Great Lake Cheese at the end of middle of second quarter. And while we were there, we got to experience the manufacturing side of agriculture. While we were there, we got to go through the different buildings they had there. We got to see the cheese itself and the way they package them. And they're actually one of the largest packaging plants, it was really interesting going there because you don't typically see that side of agriculture. Yeah, but they're one of the largest. It was really interesting being able to see the manufacturing side of agriculture because at least with us, we're used to more the hands-on with the animals and the farm side of it. And with the manufacturing, there's a lot that goes into it. They had metal detectors everywhere, a lot of workers. Like every time we walk into a different sect, we had to wash our hands and clean our shoes off to make sure we weren't bringing in any germs. But it was really interesting seeing the way everything just works together. You see farm to manufacturing to table, and it's not a big thing you see a lot. So I think that was a very important trip for our group.
We're trying to also allow kids to see the different pathways in ag, that you can go anywhere with it. Like we wouldn't have food on our table, clothes on our body, anything if we didn't have ag. And we're trying to show the kids that don't want to come to school, that don't want to do this, that don't want to go to college. We probably all want to go to college, but then there's different things that you can do with ag rather than just being on the farm.
Yeah, and going off of that, this trip also showed us, like Addie said, all the different career opportunities there. They had sales technicians, floor managers, people that did the transportation of the cheese, the packaging of the cheese. There was a lot of supervisors that made sure the product was top quality. And then you have the big CEOs, obviously, they make sure everything runs smoothly. And it's just a very important part of this class, seeing all the very different aspects. If you can work on a farm if you want to work on a farm, but there's also, you can be a scientist and research different ways to implement stuff, be a marketing technician, also working with local lawmakers to help make your products more accessible to the overall community.
I feel like I've already spoken about this. That's the last one. That's all we got. So, hey, we're really excited to be here and to be part of the growing program that we're putting together here. But we welcome anybody who's interested in helping out, getting involved, and,
And for anyone who is wondering, Mr. Ard's position was repurposed, so it did not cost any extra money.
Very good.
Good
Thank you,
job.
guys. Thank you.
This is the, oh, am I on? Okay. This is the point of meeting where we do public participation. We're the same thing we did earlier where you can come up to the microphone, state your name, township, and you want to be talking to the board if there's anybody interested.
This comment goes towards John Stoddard. I did ask him a couple years back if he would consider the agricultural program as part of the curriculum for this new school program, and he's followed through with that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Township. I just wanted,
Tighten that middle section of it if you can. There you go.
I just wanted to say it's good to see that agriculture is going to be important again here. And I was graduate, 77, with Mr. Emerson. And it was a good experience for me, working a local dairy farm. And I think that's good for all kids. Get out and do some real work. I had one question about the levy, though. No matter what you choose, is it going to be permanent or temporary?
Well, right now, what any one of those plans were, it would not be on a 5-year or 10-year cycle, it would be permanent.
So we wouldn't have to renew it.
No, there wouldn't be any, we don't have it set up for renewal. I mean, that's always an option. And one other thing for everybody to know, if the state chose to fund the schools differently in the future, you know, anything that we pass, regardless if it's passed by the public or passed by the board, which is voted in by the public, we can always drop and lower or even eliminate those as long as we're funded. That's always been the struggle with this. So that everybody knows, we struggle with being able to fund this school and be able to take care of our 1,400 kids. And if we don't have the money, then we struggle with what we're going to have, because personally, and I'm saying this for me, I'm not cutting the SROs. I'm not cutting Zero Eyes. Those are things I'm not cutting. Those are discretionary items that we purchase, but I'm not willing to cut those because the safety of my kids is first. But any time the state would, or federal government for that matter, would change the way we're funded, we can eliminate any of those items that we take, inside millage for sure. Just so everybody knows that that's a option that's out there. Now, everybody will say, well, you wouldn't do that. Well, when we first took the bond issue, it was 3.65. We refinanced that loan and it dropped it to 3.3. So we did lower it because we could lower it. And today that collects at about 2.5. So the original 365 now collects lower, and it's because of the distribution of the people that pay that original loan, because it's not about the millage, it's about the total dollars that we collect. We're only allowed to collect a certain dollar amount. So as more people are on the tax rolls, build homes, as we change properties that go from a public property that maybe we owned and we sell it, and it goes to a private individual. Well, once those go on the tax rolls, then that money gets spread. So, I mean, we may be getting a lot of criticism, and that's okay. We're used to it. But there are things we have done to decrease the millage so it does benefit the people. And Kenston, when they built their new school, the same thing, they did the same thing. As that more people come into their community, their taxes get lowered individually because the millage will drop, but the amount of dollars they collect is the same. Just, I want to try to emphasize that so everybody knows. So,
You mentioned potential other ways to fund schooling by the state. What are those?
well, they actually want to take dollars away from us. If you read, if you've read anything in the last week in Cleveland.com, and specific to first Matt Huffman, who's your president of your reps, and then Governor DeWine. Matt Huffman wants to cut $650 million out of the education budget. Now, there's about 614 schools. That doesn't mean that every school would lose $1 million, because it's all based upon the size of your school. A school our size would probably lose between $300,000 and $300,000 to $500,000, somewhere in that range. I'm not giving you an exact dollar because I can't do that calculation not knowing how they would disseminate it. Okay. The governor, we are on a guarantee. We used to get paid per student, but in the Fair Funding Formula Act that was signed into law, they came up with a guarantee that they pay us. John mentioned to you this before, that why don't we not have as many open enrolled children? If we eliminate open enrolled children and not have any, send them all to some other school, our guarantee drops and it actually hurts us. So from a parents and board member side, that's not why we built a school, to shove kids out of the school. We built the school so that kids could come here. But we have to be careful not to jump our numbers either, because a guarantee is a set dollar amount. They don't give you more. They give you what they give you. The governor's talking about in next year dropping that guarantee to 97% of what we currently get, and in 2 years drop it to 90%. So they're not talking about actually giving us more money. Our fight, a school like ourselves, our fight is, wait a minute, we're a growing district that's doing everything you've asked us to do. They want us to have vocational in the building. Yes, we send children to Auburn Career and have done it as long as I can remember. But they also asked us to have vocational in the building. The other thing is they want us to be able to hit their criteria every August or September and be at a certain level. Well, if you hit those criterias, do you get extra funding? No. Well, what's the incentive for us to hit all these criterias, have the extra vocational? And nobody's going to kid each other. I will tell you, these vocational programs do cost us money. They're not free. Nobody ever said they were. But they're vital to these kids and what we do and educating them, because not every child is going to go to college. So we need to have vocational in the schools to give them that choice. We utilize Auburn Career more than most schools do. In fact, for the size of our school, we send more children there than schools much bigger than us. But sometimes they can only accept so many of our kids because they don't have room. Listen, they're maxed out too. In fact, one of our former board members, president of their board, he works very close with us, and we know things that are going to happen because he lets us know it. Well, we want to send as many kids there as we can, but if there isn't room then they can't go. So that's also something that we have to balance with everything else we do to make sure we have the internal funding. The last thing I'll mention with that is we have a person on staff that specifically is writing grants so that we're not paying money out of pocket. We're trying to fund any and all programs. We're working on trying to build sidewalks from the village to our school for the safety of our kids. And she's working with ODOT and our county engineer to get that done so it doesn't cost taxpayers. See, the thing is, people say, well, you've got to look outside the box. Well, I think we do a damn fine job of looking outside the box, and we work really hard to try to find dollars that are there. They can be state or federal dollars. In fact, I gave this person a readout from Crane's Business of all the philanthropists that are in the Cleveland area. And my hope is maybe one of them maybe two of them, will help us fund some of these things that we're doing. So, I mean, we're not just thinking, hey, taxpayers, pony up, we want your money, that's how it's gonna be. That's not the case at all. We're looking for every avenue we can to grow these programs and do it so that our kids that we all love, the five of us, I could tell you, have a dear love for all our kids, and we want them all to be successful. That's why we're on the board, because it sure isn't because of the pay, I can guarantee you that.
Would you benefit from an endowment system?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
So is that the reason you went to the list of philanthropists?
Yeah, I mean, if that's something we can grow, we'd love to do it. We have an educational fund, but it's in its infancy, and, you know, we've got to grow it gradual. It's not, this is a community that doesn't have a whole lot of people that are billionaires.
Right.
So we've got to grow it outside of our community with people that are willing to fund new and creative ideas. When we brought John here, it was with the idea that he could grow those type of programs, and he has. I mean, everything we've asked him to do, he's hit on. So it's not like he's not doing his job.
What do you think the largest landowner in our district is?
The city of Akron.
City of
Yes.
Akron.
How about hitting them up?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the city of Akron is part of the reason we don't collect the taxes, because they own so much property, and you know that in
Yeah.
Troy, because, hell, that's a big part of Troy.
Right. You don't think that's an option?
They're tax exempt.
Pardon me?
They're tax exempt,
Doesn't mean they can't make a donation.
right? Yeah.
Gotta ask
But that's
first.
something we talk about all the time. I talk about that with the
Try.
board. And that's why when when I say I look at home values and, I'm always tweaking that forecast because there's not room for growth in our district, because over 9,000 acres is held by the city of Akron.
Right.
And that reaches through our entire district. Troy is the biggest impact, but it starts way up in Clarendon and goes through all the Burton and Troy and Burton Village. So it's a huge impact.
Right.
If Akron was a federal agency, we would receive a stipend from the federal government for that if we had an Army base or some sort of federal installation within our county. But cities are completely exempt because I've looked into it.
Okay. Well,
Hey, Rich, we are doing a networking thing. I don't know if you've seen it. It's coming out more on March 5th of alumni. And there's a lot of alumni sitting here in this room. And we're trying to build an alumni network that maybe we can do. We're working on also getting not a foundation. Well, it will be yeah. So based on our alumni. So spread the word. It's March 5th at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
I think, right, Vanessa, here in the cafeteria.
in the cafeteria. Okay.
So spread the word.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I know I took up time, but anybody else for open public participation?
Real quick. Will the new building that we were so graciously given the money to be able to have across from Preston, will that be an on-site building? Would it be considered one that is our building where our students would be, so we would get those funds for it? You were saying that the criteria was they had to have, so many vocational things in the building, in here.
Yes.
Is that considered still the
It
building?
will be.
Yes.
All right. And just a thought, Rick and I are neighbors. It's my brother-in-law. And our properties behind us, which are Akron Reservoir, have been decimated by they coming in and taking the trees out. They can do that, but they can't help us, and they won't contribute to us. And we all know that they have 600,000 acres,
Yeah.
whatever it is. It's, we really need to approach that in whatever way we can to try to make them accountable for being a part of our community, right?
I will say thank you for bringing that up because honestly, from my point, I've never thought of trying to approach them just because they're a government entity. And
They can have companies come in and fell and harvest those trees. We can't touch anything. It's just like the county said, you know, they've got that building over there, you can't touch, you can't take a root, a tree branch out of that lip. They won't let you.
anyone else for public participation?
Burton Township actually got money from City of Akron. Well, Burton Township got money from the City of Akron because when that property that was south of the township building now, it was part of the, it was an old farm that they were going to annex into the village. Well, we had a effort going on with the Trust for Public Land, and as a result of that, we went to the City of Akron because they're interested in keeping properties not developed so that the watershed's protected. So we got over $100,000 from the City of Akron.
Basically sell the property.
No, we didn't sell the property to them. They do have an interest, but because we bought the land with, part of the money came from the Trust for Public Land, we cannot develop the property. It was bought, it was to preserve that area as a park district. So if you're presented with the proper angle, you know, you might be able to get some money, but this happened probably about 10 or 15 years ago.
Don't develop it.
They can use it for agricultural purposes. I gotta watch
Correct.
that the meeting doesn't get out of hand.
Yes. Yep.
I can't let it go.
That's where the creativity has to come in.
You got to address the board.
Okay.
And I'd love for you guys to be
Sorry.
able to talk
Yeah.
amongst, but we'll be here all night too.
And just one last thing, and I'll probably leave then, because in order to keep my mouth shut, even though we're started off with a small amount of people in agriculture is the biggest industry in the state of Ohio. And we're just going to have to start developing it a little bit more. There's a lot of niche farming that's going on in Geauga County. So there's a lot of opportunities and the Farm Bureau is actually having a pancake breakfast up at the Bond Building this coming Saturday. So if anyone's interested in attending that, it'd be a good reference for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Modfield, I remember.
Yes.
Just because it's a new meeting, Nathan Rickett, Montville Township. I did just want to iterate in this meeting that I'm happy to help the board in whatever they need to present a new levy and to get out in the public. But I would ask the board to please consider that avenue over the millage shift for the community. People are already struggling, and I know that the 33% that our area, or the 30% that our area received, most of that, if any of it, didn't go to you guys, and it's just a bad timing. But I think by making a good choice tonight, it will instill some confidence in the communities, and it will help make that first step towards getting the communities on board to make this decision that is what's best. And we believe it's what's best for the kids. And I don't vote levies down, like I said, for schools. I think they're very important. But this is a good faith step that I think the board can take to help us move forward in a unity with the community. So thank you.
We have room for both of you, it's fine. No problem. One at a time. Thank you.
Carolyn Snyder, Burton Township. It was with great sadness that I saw that our former band director, Bob White, passed away a couple of weeks ago. And I think that he brought so much energy to this school and so many memories that it only seems right that we honor him. And I'm asking that the board consider naming the band room as the Bob White Memorial Room for him.
Mrs. Stone, I put you in charge. All right.
Yep.
Yeah, because Dan was.
I'm on it.
Big guy, Dan guy.
I think instructed them well.
Okay.
Jody, were you in band?
I
think
was.
so.
Look,
Three of us.
See, look at how many of us were affected by Bob White.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that because he was definitely an asset to this community and to the students that he interacted with. And he's still missed even though he hasn't been here for years. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Way over my head. There we go. Yeah, I just wanted to say, from what I'm getting from tonight with the taxes and everything, that it sounds like the state is taking most of it. I know everybody gets mad at you, the word gets out that, oh, what are they doing with all the money and everything? But after looking at all this, I mean, did you say $1 billion goes in vouchers and that kind of thing?
Currently, the state has $1 billion allocated for private vouchers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at all this and it just sounds like we pass these levies and everything so that it'll go to our schools. But the state's taking it and putting it out there to all these other schools. And I like what you put on the back here, that we need to contact our legislators.
Yes.
So I think we need to get the word out about that we need to contact our legislators and tell them to quit stealing our money that we work so hard for, and we want it to go to our schools for our kids, and we don't want it to be spread all over the place. And it just, I don't know. I don't think it's really that we need to be paying more taxes. We need to start contacting our legislators and telling them to knock it off. So.
Thank you for recognizing that.
Well, I noticed you put it on the back here with the big letters, and we need to get the word out. We need to tell our legislators to, quit taking our money. I mean, we work hard for that, and I'm the one that writes the checks and everything, and those land taxes, and for the business, we're paying school taxes, and we want it to go to our school. So we really need to get the word out about that, to contact our legislators.
Thank you. And what I want to make a comment on is people in here were upset that we would be able to move unvoted millage, but they're not upset with the state and how much money they take away from us. This never happens if they just fund us. It isn't about the local taxpayers who aren't doing their fair share, because we believe in our community that they do. The problem is we can't continue to run the school the way it is if funds are taken away from us. The vouchers they claim were never money that was earmarked for public schools. Yet you heard me say what Matt Huffman and your governor want to do and take money from us. Well, why do you think they want to take money from us? It's because they have to continue to fund that. And I sent my girls to Catholic school. No problem. I paid my way, and I also voted for the school levies because my kids rode the bus. So I felt that's my responsibility. But why is it that they could take money, they have no financial responsibility? In other words, Beth has to provide forms and our statements and 5-year budgets to a budget commission. Yet the other schools that money goes to, they do not have to do it.
I get it.
They're under no obligation.
I get it. But the point is, we have to go after the legislators, the
That's
state
right.
legislators. But I also understand the frustration of the people, because they don't want taxation without representation.
But they're having that happen today.
But if the word got out that we need to do that, we need to contact our legislators and stop them from stealing our money.
Yep.
We wouldn't be in this predicament now, and we wouldn't be upset that, we feel like we're also being you know.
Just
we
remember,
weren't
at the
told-
state level, they voted and did these things without any of your votes.
I know, but I can understand the frustration with the
Yeah,
taxation
well,
without
I
representation
understand
also.
so.
So, yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank- all right.
Is there anyone else? Okay.
There's one more, I think.
Oh, there's one more? Two. Okay.
Don Mooney, Troy Township. I have one question. When you guys look at your budget financials, the outsourcing, does the school district see that they saved money by outsourcing maintenance or cleaning, ground crew, and transportation? Or is there more money going?
Are you
out
saying, are
because
the
of the
busing and
The
the,
grounds and all that? that
yeah,
you
because
outsourced.
we have that all out. Yes.
The school
answer's yes.
saved money?
Well, yes, because you have to have employees, pay them benefits, buy the equipment for them to use. So when you factor
Well,
all those
transportation, you're
things,
still buying the buses and you're
well,
paying for the
we have
fuel.
to, buy, if we're mowing our own grass, then we have to have all the equipment to do that. If we're plowing our own snow, then we have to own that equipment. So we not only have to own the equipment, then we have to hire the labor and we have to pay them benefits. So if you're asking busing, the cleaning that we have happen in the building, we have found that we save, yes.
By how much approximately?
Oh, I don't have a
year?
number
I
right
don't
at
have
my
a number.
fingertips.
If you give me your name, we can get back to you.
Dawn Mooney. Yeah, I'd like to know about how much we're saving compared to
Okay.
if we went back in-house.
Fair enough.
Yeah, if we went back in-house.
Do you want to know on all of it combined or any particular one?
For how much we would save if we went back in-house for transportation and how much we would save if we went back in-house. Because, I mean, granted, we still own our buses, so that's not something that's gonna have to be rebought if we went back in-house. When you outsourced the grounds and clean, we had the trucks, we had the mowers, and you sold it all up at the school. So yeah, there's some maintenance there. Well, now we have all these, you know, these programs that you guys are starting in the school that wouldn't they be able to do the small engine repairs? Wouldn't, you know, and make it more of an educational type of thing too? I know that they can't do, you know, buses and mechanics of that stuff, but wouldn't they be able to do those small engine repairs? Wouldn't they be able to do things like that, which would then save money? You know, I mean, so yeah, I would like to know
It's
how
really
much
not
we are
just,
saving by outsourcing.
but what you're doing is you're picking the little things out. It's also the labor and even finding the labor in some cases. The reason, if you look at the busing specifically, and you look at districts that border us, they struggle on labor. They can't find enough of drivers or substitute drivers. That is a huge problem.
And we still do too. though.
So, and that's everywhere.
Yeah.
It really isn't just the districts that border us, but there's districts everywhere that suffer with that.
Of course.
That's one of the reasons we went to contract services, because part of the program is they have to find substitutes. It's up to them, not up to us. So
Exactly. I understand
that's just
that.
one thing. And then the labor to have the people that are actually going to plow snow or mow the grass. If you talk to any landscape companies, they'll tell you the same thing. They struggle finding labor. And then at what rate do you have to pay? And then you have to worry about their benefits. I mean, that's the big thing. It's those items. We wanted a controlled cost on those items. That's why we went to those. Now, in our food service, those people work for the school. They're not contracted out. Now, why haven't we looked at that? Well, we've looked at it, but the service that we're getting provided today, we're satisfied with. Could someday that be contracted out? Anything's possible.
I was just wondering if we actually are saving money, because I don't know, I just find it crazy that, take bus service. We now have 2 mechanics that we used to have 1 mechanic doing everything. We have multiple trainers that 1 trainer used to do, like
We,
the extra.
we have saved money moving to first student.
Okay.
Unquestionable. We'll send you the numbers.
Please do. Thank you.
No
And
problem.
I pray that you guys don't do this inside millage, because I really do think that you would lose the support of the community altogether. It really would suck. Just
Okay.
putting it plain out there.
Thank you.
All right, now I forgot what I was coming up here for. So I guess one thing that I just chatted also with Troy Township, everybody's said it multiple times tonight that it's taxation without representation, which is false. We elected you to be our representatives. We can't figure it out amongst ourselves on how to fund the school. We're putting it up to you to make that decision on what's the best route to fund our kids. If it is moving millage and that's how it's going to be, and that's going to fix us for 10 years, I hope within 10 years, people start to realize that the state's not working and we need to figure it out on our own. So if that's what you have to do, you have to do it. So whatever you guys decide, I think is the best thing for us. So thank you.
Thank you. Are we good?
Nope. One more.
One more, okay.
Let's see how many times I say one more.
It's okay. I want to give everybody the chance.
Yep.
Do it.
Elizabeth Clark, Burton Township, and I disagree with him. We did vote. We voted twice, and we failed the levy twice. So he can't say that we didn't vote. We did. The people spoke. The majority spoke. The majority voted for you and believed that you would represent our interests. We have voted twice to fill your levies. We have showed what the majority believes. So vote like the majority who voted for you. I voted for all of you, believing in you. And you will be letting me down, not just me, but the majority, if you vote for the inside mill transfer.
I missed it.
We need to use the.
Is there anyone else?
I don't remember that either.
Okay. We're now going to the treasurer's report.
Let the record reflect the treasurer has submitted a statement to the board and to the superintendent showing the revenues, receipts, the sources derived, the various appropriations made by the board, the expenditures and disbursements, the purposes and balances remaining in each fund. The financial statements for the period ending January 2025 has been submitted subject to audit and includes the financial summary, appropriation and revenue summary, check register recap, and bank reconciliation. I have a motion to approve the donation from the Kiwanis Club of East Yaga, $500 to PBIS.
So moved. I'll second it.
Jody and Linda. Any discussion?
Thanks.
Roll call, Beth.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the following financial amendments? We have an additional $3,000 to the Title II grant, $200 to miscellaneous grants. There's a then and now to Neonet on behalf of the Global Connections Academy for $10,560.
So moved.
Brian,
I'll second.
Dan, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
And Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve to participate in the 24-25 Ohio School Council Cooperative Bus Purchase? We intend to bid on one 72-passenger conventional bus and one passenger van.
So moved.
I'll second.
Brian, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
I am at the superintendent's report.
I would like to request a motion to approve the homebound tutor rate at $35 per hour.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Jody, Linda, any discussion? Roll call, Beth?
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
I would like to request a motion to approve the following certified and classified personnel as listed.
Wow. What's going on there?
So
I'll make
moved.
the motion.
Sorry, I'll second.
Sorry, Jody.
It's okay, you go.
Jody
I'll second.
seconds. Any discussion? Roll call, Beth?
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
I would like to request a motion to approve the following volunteers as listed.
So moved.
Dan? I'll second. Any discussion? Roll call, Beth?
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
I would like to request a motion to approve the following contracts as attached. One's to safely, actually two to Safely Home. Those are for court-placed students. One to Grove City Area School, another court-placed students. The ESC of the Western Reserve for Step Up to Quality Agreement. That's for preschool services. 3 for Chardon for contracted services that they will pay us. And the contract with the lease for the ball fields at Abundant Life Church.
So moved.
Second.
Brian, any discussion? Roll call, Beth?
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
I would like to request a motion to approve the following resolution authorizing us to offer the employee severance plan to potentially offer buyouts to veteran teachers.
So moved.
I'll second.
Linda and Jody. Any discussion?
John or Beth, can you explain what that is? I mean, so the public knows.
Yeah, what this lets us do is offer either a retirement or an early retirement buyout to allow us to get some of the higher salaried employees off the books and replaced with lower salaried employees to save the district money.
Any further discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
I would like to request a motion to authorize continued membership in the Ohio High School Athletic Association for the 2025-26 school year.
So move.
I'll second.
Jody. Any discussion? Roll call, Beth?
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
I would like to request a motion to approve the following certified staff science of reading stipend payments as listed.
So moved.
Dan,
I'll second it.
looking for the
Yeah, there's no.
Linda. Any discussion? Roll call, Beth?
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Thanks, John. Okay. We are to old business, which is the resolution to a tax levy and the recommendation for that action.
Actually, I would like to change the motion and make a motion that we delay our voting on it till we can reflect on some of the information we got tonight.
All right, so that's actually, you're asking for it to be tabled for how long?
Our next board meeting or 2 weeks?
I feel like the next board meeting, if that's too long to let this linger, I think maybe 2 weeks would be good.
So the next board meeting is March 10th. So you're asking for the motion for that to be tabled. So that's 3:10. Okay, so Linda made the motion, and Jody seconded?
I'll second. I would like some time to reflect on this too.
Well, you were chatting, so I think that's a second, right?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, just checking. Okay, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Did we have a date picked?
February
3:10, for you said the next board meeting.
Jody said.
I feel like that's too long to let it hang out
Oh,
there.
well, okay.
Maybe like February 24th, 2 weeks from tonight.
We need to have another meeting for that specifically.
Just to have that one vote.
When did you say?
You said February 24th you wanted?
Yeah.
Can we not? I'm sorry. This is staying.
Well, if it doesn't meet our schedules,
26th.
I want all 5 of us here. So we have to have all 5 here.
26th, I'll be back.
26th?
Mm-hmm.
That is a Wednesday, right? Is that right?
Correct.
So does everybody have the 26th open?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Beth, do we have enough time to put that in the papers?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so the resolution to levy a tax has been tabled till 2/26/10. Linda made the motion, Jody seconded. Any further discussion?
That will be at 7 PM,
6.
6 PM.
I would just like to thank everybody that came tonight and voiced their opinion, and I would love to see this many people, or even more than 2 at our regular meetings, that would share their opinions with us. And I know that you all want an answer, and we want this closed too, but I just feel like we heard so much tonight, and it's too big of a decision to make quickly. So thanks for your patience and feedback, and we'll try to get this wrapped up as quickly as we can. Come back on the 26th and see how it ends, I guess.
And seriously, start writing to your legislators, because they're coming down with things in the pike that will continue to affect public schools. And we can use their funds, so we don't have to go to you.
Any further discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes. Any new business? All right, we've already told you the next meeting to talk about the tax resolution is 2/26 at 6 PM. Our normal board meeting will be March 10th at 6 PM, which is a Monday. Any reason to go into executive session, Beth or John?
None here.
I have none.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Brian,
I'll second.
Jody, any discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Thanks, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. And remember those 2 families that could use your